Hello and welcome to SBL, hashtag SBL. To everyone out there, this is SOUQ Business Landscape. I want to start in this light. I want to first say thank you to everyone behind the cameras for everything you get to see happening here. Some people spend sleepless nights and get to quarter fight and make sure that we come out this beautiful. So first I want to say thank you to Grace, thank you to Gladys, thank you to Sam, thank you to Godson. Yes, you heard me right. To Fortune, I want to say thank you very much. And for those within the studio that point and direct us, hey, some of them happen to be angels. You get to hear names like Emmanuel, you get to hear Austin. You get to hear the big one of them, our able director, Gabriel. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to every other camera person that has been very nice to us and make sure we come out good and making sure we serve you this daily staple. Thank you. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks, and today we'll be looking at major stories that is not just affecting Africa or Nigeria, but also shaping global politics, economies, and development. Today, we will be looking at asset recovery. That is not coming out right the way we want it to be. But federal government of Nigeria has listed some forfeited properties in Abuja, and this will be going on sale. We'll get to talk about it, who it came from, how it will go on sale, and how you can be part of that. We'll also talk about the story that's happening right now. The stock exchange, the Nigerian stock exchange has rebounded in the last 7 days, and some very good news is coming out from there. So stay there, don't go anywhere. Then what's happening in energy? Iran is also in the news again. And oil prices are going up. I want to say surge, but no, it's not as fast as we here in Nigeria we want it to be, but at least it's gaining some traction. Then we'll end with tech. Tech, not as tech as you understand it. Tech as in defense, military spending, thanks to Trump. A budget of almost half of African countries is being spent on a dome defense plan. We're going to talk about that and how it affects us. So don't go anywhere. I'll get to introduce the full plate and those within this particular place. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have to take a good breath and tell you that I am not alone, but the best set of distinguished gentlemen are seated by my right and by my left. So join me as I welcome on this full platter today. Olumide, welcome to SBL.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Olumide Sokoya.
You're welcome. Then I also have the one and only Moyo Lagos.
Always a pleasure to be here. I'm Moyosore Adebiyi. Thank you so much for having me.
And I have Priye. By the way, Priye is just hold on for it. Priye, go ahead.
Thank you, Chooks. I'm Oyinpreye Krumale. I don't know what Chooks want to say about me, but please, be mindful of what you take in, but I'm sure it's going to give you the best.
Just know that you have to stay tuned to get and know the full gist of it. Now, let's go straight to what is happening. Straight to our first story of the day. I also forgot to mention Chike. Chike is here, yes. So don't forget that. So Chike is making sure we get the full gist of this day. So our first story is that of asset recovery. The government has listed forfeited buildings in Abuja, and that particular story is one that, well, it bites us somehow, it hits us somehow. And we get to ask ourselves, when exactly are this kind of stories going to stop? But till then, we will just keep looking and try our best. Now, for those that are wondering, what are we talking about? There are 720 estates that came from the past central bank governor, and this particular building had to be forfeited. EFCC has handed that particular estate over to the Ministry of Housing Development. The Development Ministry has come out to say that we are putting this on sale and Nigerians can have a go at it in an auction. That particular auction is going to come through the website of the Renewed Hope, and they are telling you that either you buy or some of it will also be reserved for government use. So we don't have an issue with it, but let's talk about this issue. Your Excellencies, 720 from one person. Let's leave the correction part of it. Now, should they sell?
Should they sell it?
Should they sell? Should they auction? Should government keep? What was the best use that we can? This is government property right now. So what should be the best use of it? Let me start from here.
Well, 753 units.
753 units.
First of all.
I missed out 30 3 units.
I first
serious.
imagine how one person would acquire this amount of property, but that's another story for another day. Well, I'm not opposing them selling it to the public because it would also boost the real estate market. It's just how it is being done, coordination, management. I know of the recent one that was done in Lagos. Krumale and I were having a chat, off camera, and he was talking about how he wanted to make purchases of cars, but the car he had been dreaming to buy.
Who was selling?
Lagos State government.
Okay.
They were auctioning cars and all that. So the car he was dreaming to buy was not available. So I hope that will not happen this time around. Let it just be made transparent as they have, assured us. So I think it's good.
It's good.
Government keeping it well. It's government. They can build, they can acquire, they can buy. But let it go back to the people. It was actually stolen from the people. So
Exactly.
let it go back to the people.
Okay, now, it was actually stolen from the people, so let it go back to the people. Let them sell. Now, how do we get to monitor and see that it's an open auction?
Again, that's the thing. That's why we always talk about transparency. And one of my fears is always that these things get politicized, and we don't.
When we say these things, be specific. We're talking about
issues like
property
this.
now.
Now, when you recover,
talk about the issue.
recover assets, which
Specific
is
issue.
the 753 housing unit estate that was recovered from Godwin Emefiele. You want me to go into that?
Exactly. Okay, let's hold
So
on to
I'm
that.
just saying that things of this nature, there's no transparency around them most of the time, and we need that, right? So
This is
how do
renewed hope agenda.
The portal, there's a portal you can get all the information now, which is a good thing actually.
Okay.
At least now we know that we can go to somewhere and see, transparent information on how the process is, what people are even buying, the prices, that people are buying, and also we have to also ensure that it's not one man, no man thing.
Kind of bidding.
Kind of bidding.
Open to all?
It has to be open to all.
Okay.
That's what the transfer. If it's not, then there's a systemic problem when it comes to the forfeiture, assets recovery and forfeiture situation. So it has to be transparent. It must not be politicized. And I think the renewed hope portal is a good development. At least it's better than what we are primarily used to. So we're hoping for the best, and I hope that it does help to bridge the building gap in Abuja as well.
Building gap in Abuja.
The housing gap, yeah.
For those that are wondering, if you look at the screen right now, you will see a massive development. Well, it's been abandoned because
There was a cut.
there was a court according to Moyo, and the coterie has to serve some time if at the end of the day he's found guilty. But what other evidence is there than what is staring us in the face? Okay, now let me come to you, Priye. We've had this blessing that has been blessing us from the grave in the name of Abacha. Do you think we should have an account specifically created for recovered funds?
A specific account
Specific account.
created.
Yes, just like this renewed hope
funds.
portal, I can just go there and say, okay, how much do we have now? Okay, we have this amount, okay.
Okay. First of all, with regards to this question, let me take you back to some time ago when in Delta State, a specific governor was criticized or a specific governor was taking the federal government to court.
The governor, does he have a name?
Oh, okay, because I can't really remember what administration was that.
But he has a name.
The governor, of course, has a name, but I can't really remember what administration was. If I can't remember what administration was that, I can't really tell if it was James Ibori, if it was the Dr. Uduan, or Ifeanyi Okoa.
No, we go ahead, we'll fact check.
Okay, one of them.
One of them.
Okay.
Where that administration was taking the federal government to court. And what was the argument was that one of the governors was criticized of misappropriating funds meant for the development of the state in a different account. Or probably the money was not spent by the state governor. So at a specific end of the administration, they are meant to return that money back to the federal government. So the question that they were fighting at that point in time is, this money was misappropriated. It belonged to the state government. So must we return it back to the state, to the federal government as proceeds that were not spent? Or this money was misappropriated because the personality and at the saddle at that point in time, mismanaged the process. They did not channel that money into the development of the state. They kept it back for personal reasons. But the fact remained that it belonged to the state. So it should become that of the state property. But you know what? It was the federal government took that money at that point in time, and they were in court. And the outcome of the story, I couldn't really tell. So that's where I'm going in this specific case. Of course, that's why we have the existence of the single treasury account. So this specific
single treasury is for money generated, not money looted.
Okay, so let me tell you something. From the auction of these specific buildings, the money should go back to the single treasury account. Why? Because it is going to be a source of generation to the government. Because the government is selling criminal proceeds, that were gotten from the proceeds of, monies that were gotten from the proceeds of crime. Understand? So it should go back to the single treasury account. So it becomes an income. In accounting terms, it becomes an income in terms of accounting.
How do we? It was initially a loss, so it can't be an income.
How do we account for this? How do we account for this fund? Okay. Now we have the EFCC, we have the ICPC. Now we have Interpol, which sometimes also does this clamping down. Then we now have whistleblower. We have a whole lot of it. If we just say catch, collect, and go back to the single treasury account, how do we account for it? If I want to say, okay, show me. What did we get back in the last 4 years? If we have a specific account for
that purpose,
yes, then we can, okay, we had 20 naira, then from this account, we now took 18 naira to the single treasury account.
Okay, so the thing is, great. If we are going to have a specific account for that purpose, I think it will be fantastic. But the thing is, if that law comes into play, then we must also have another law that will be dedicating all monies gotten from crimes that will be returned to that specific account dedicated for specific projects.
Agreed.
Okay.
Because if they are dedicated for specific projects, we know that we are always going to be getting money from from the activities of the EFCC, and we know some of the state infrastructures that will be getting a renewed face. Now, Chooks, what I am trying to address is this. One of those buildings, I'm making search, or I looked at the cost from those buildings. It's about duplexes in the Federal Capital Territory. So I felt like, okay, how much does the average duplex cost in the Federal Capital Territory? And I'm seeing figures like 160 million. That's an average of it. So if I times 160 million naira times 753 duplexes.
Which location?
I'm coming to that.
But on average,
An average 160 million. So times 753, you are getting 120 trillion. That's how many times? That's like almost 3 times. That's almost 3 times. Not exactly 3 times, but almost 3 times at our budget for 2025. In that specific
120 something.
120 trillion. So that's 160 million times 753.
120 something billion, not trillion.
Well, I saw maybe it's
your calculators must have added some extra zeros.
Okay, probably maybe 120 trillion. Billion rather. That we're still going to look at it. So I felt like, okay, if this is the amount we're going to get, probably they're not going to be auctioned in 160 million naira, because now the government will want to auction it in a subsidized amount of money.
Yeah, within the story, the ministry is saying that the government office will keep some.
Keep some.
Yes, for government use.
For government use, yes. But it also states that some of them will be sold to both private and public individuals.
Will you bid?
Oh, of course, we're going to give it a try. Olumide was referencing what I made outside the when we were off studio, when they were auctioning cars that committed or flouted the traffic rules, and they were seized and were not returned back in Lagos State. So they were
that was last year.
So they were being auctioned, and I saw it. I went online and I saw it. I can see the prices of those cars, but some of them have been told. You see it boldly written: sold, sold, gone, sold. There are others that he said it's still free for public bidding. I clicked on it 1,000 times. I clicked on the Lexus. Tell me. I clicked on the Benz. I clicked on many, but it just won't go. So I was like, okay, I thought you said this is open. Why can't I have access to it? So the question now beckons that, look, if these are what you're telling me, why can't I access it? Has it been sold already and you're not giving that information out to the public? So these are very, very important questions to ask. So we should know some of the average Nigerians that have actually purchased these properties that are said to be auctioned in a very subsidized amount of money to the public in the name of making the public to be part of the process of the largesse, coming at a cheaper price. But the thing is, does the common man or the average man, maybe he couldn't be able to afford 160 million, but probably can he borrow from 100 million naira from a mortgage bank that can sponsor him to buy this building and have him pay for 20 or 30 years?
Okay, why will chew over that? Next time, find a place that has better internet connection. But for this is majorly going to be a direct, public, open bidding kind of thing. So I don't think it's going to be in office. People sitting, you will have to walk to the place. Walk to the place and be part of that bidding. But before we leave this story and go to the next one, I want to ask this. Apologies, I have to just keep pausing. If we say this are being sold, be it a car, be it a house, be it anything, is that not enough evidence to indict whatever name is there?
I think it should be. I love that you said this. I honestly love that you said this. Because this is it now. This is the fruits of the crime that we are seeing. So why isn't he in jail?
Well, it says guilty until proven. I've forgotten that.
If you don't think he's guilty, you will not seize his property.
Well, until the court convicts him.
So who were the people who now thought it was okay to sell this property? How did we get there?
It's the court.
It's the court.
It was the same court.
It was the same court that said.
So
what I'm saying is...
So is this not contradiction?
Saying that he's innocent on his...
until proven.
Yes. No, I'm saying that this should be proof of the guilt.
This proceeds.
No, Chooks, if we were to look at it another direction, the court said they could not tell the source from which they got the funds to be able to embark in such a massive project.
Yeah. Meaning?
And because you cannot give account of the source of your income to buy that, Part 2, Section 7 of the EFCC Act said that they must not be allowed, whoever is involved in that case, must not be allowed to enjoy the proceeds of crime. And that's the reason.
So there's a crime.
These are proceeds of crime.
This is an admission of crime.
It has been established that it's a proceeds of crime by the court. So it needs to be sold. So if it's a proceeds of crime,
can he be indicted on this?
Indirectly, it can, of course, be indicted. But we are not a court.
Yeah. But
I just think, again, we're asking questions, but I think it's common sense and logic that would make you say, if this is obviously an admission of crime, then where is the justice for
No, he didn't admit that he committed a crime.
No, not him. He won't admit it now. That's why we have courts. Criminals don't admit that they are criminals.
He who alleges
must prove. The burden of proof is on them. I am aware.
So until...
If there's enough proof to auction the property, there should be enough proof to lock him in prison.
While we seek the burden of proof and buy the proof of the burden, we will be heading to the next story. But before we hit that particular point, don't go anywhere. We'll go on a very short break and SBL will be right back. Make sure you call your neighbor and tell him that we are on and share the link. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's still SBL, SOUQ Business Landscape, and we'll go straight to some good, positive news. The Nigerian stock market rebounded yesterday, Tuesday, with a 20 billion boost in market capitalization, driven by gains in consumer goods and insurance stocks. Nestlé Nigerian PLC, Triple G and Company PLC, and Regency Alliance Insurance PLC each recorded a 10% rise in share price, helping to lift investor sentiment at the close of trading. The all-share index edged up by 32.64 points, while the market capitalization rose to 69.031 trillion. Now, the consumer goods index climbed by 2.5%, and the insurance index by 1.41%, reflecting renewed interest in these sectors. Now, trading activities showed improvement with 497.06 million shared value at 13.21 billion exchanged across 18.795 deals. This is something good. This is something good. Now, for everyone that was out there all through last week, people just kept shouting, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you see this? Did you see that? Now, for those that were buying, they were profiting. Those that sold last week out of fear, the reverse was the case. What do you think necessitated this?
First of all, I think there are some issues when the stock market, when the market is doing well, and the capital market is doing well. There are some indices for us to look at. Speaking with Mr. Kennedy Adeaga this morning, where he was intimating us with some of the forces, that can make the market either go up or come down. One of it had to do with the 27.5% interest rate. But let me not talk about that now. Let me talk about some of other few things he talked about. Relative stability. There's a relative stability in the business climate and in the polity. It's going to reflect in the market. And if it is going to reflect in the market, that means both those who are selling their stocks and those who want to buy. There's going to be lots of bargaining going on in the system. For those who exercise fear, probably from their own analysis, probably from advice from their brokers and all of that, may want to do that. I think that's what SOUQ were referring to as who sold out of fear.
Mm-hmm. Those that sold 7 days ago.
Quickly. But you know what? Those that sustained it, this sort of news is going to boost even some of those companies. We saw them mentioned Nestlé, who are part of the gainers, and some other companies were mentioned, and some of them lost. Their loss even amounted to 43 naira. Now that's quite a lot. If
you now look at the cumulative shares held
because it was and you felt like, okay, imagine you owning shares in that organization that lost 43 naira.
I won't sell. I will just hold on, waiting for a rebound.
You will hold on, but you'll be troubled within. So
depending on how much I'm holding.
Depends on what. So those companies that make their profit, there's a bank, recently that sharing five naira dividend. Recently, just in the recent past, that they shared 5 naira dividend to all their shareholders. And people who have large units of shares, were smiling all to the bank. In fact,
5 naira might look small until you look at the amount of
shares
you're holding
in that specific bank. And I'm talking about a traditional ruler from one of the southwestern countries, if not from a SOUQ state, a chief. It was in the general annual meeting of the bank that when they had their shareholders meeting recently, and he was speaking extensively how the bank had grown and how the chief executive officer promised he was going to build to make sure that they get to 5 naira, and for quite a short period of time. Shorter period of time can be within 2-3 years, and he was able to achieve that goal. And they're all smiling to the bank. And the chief executive officer himself is smiling to the bank, ranging, how much did he got? Ranging up to 42 billion naira.
Okay. Why we hold on to that particular thought? You want to make us look for what to sell and go buy shares. But now let's look at sector trends over the last 7 days. Now we have healthcare. Healthcare moved 8.91%. Consumer staples 3.94%. Tech lower round 3.6%. Industries, financials, materials, they just kept going down. And now let's also look at major gainers as of yesterday. We have Nestlé, we have Nigerian breweries, we have Interbrew, and all these are food, beverage, and household equipment. Unilever and Co. Then the only bank that came up as of yesterday was GTCO. Some time ago, the pharmaceuticals, several major ones left the country. But now we are not seeing that in the stock market. We're not seeing that fall in price in the stock market. Are we saying that the ones within, or those that are still left, they've come up to fill up that void? Moyo?
Well, I mean, if we're judging by the numbers, yes, that would be the simple answer. But I do think that when we're looking at the gains and all of that, we must also understand when we're interpreting this that this could be momentary. It might not be a structural recovery, so to speak. So we have to be guided. I mean, it's a good thing, obviously. It's something that we're happy about. I mean, I'm very happy for Regency Alliance. It's a dear family friend who founded the company, so I'm happy. I'm happy about the good. But I'm just saying, we have to ensure that we look deeper. Obviously, our companies have the capacity to do more. So we have to look deeper when it comes to regulations and how we can structure the market to be more to be more stable, so to speak, right? Because undulating progresses, sometimes you realize that, oh, when somebody says the market has grown more this week, you now go 4 weeks back, you now realize that the market dipped so far back that it's not really much, you know. So that's basically the situation. Because if you even look at the numbers, you know, the number of deals are a little bit more narrower than the previous week. You know, so it's just the top gainers that keep on gaining. It's not exactly like it's trickling all the way down. You understand what I mean?
The high-end holders.
It's just the high-end holders, you know, the big boys that continue to grow. But generally, the deals that were sealed were less than the week prior. So we must look at it from a very holistic level.
Okay, coming to you, let's look at compensation. Let's look at what offices. Let's look at staff compensation. Do you think we should start seeing a case whereby, let's say I work in Femi Wash right now, and Femi Wash decides, okay, Priye, you've done excellently well, and we want to compensate you with something, and instead of maybe a car or holiday, they just decide, okay, let's get shares for this person.
I need all of it.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
It's a good suggestion, just like you rightly said, it's a good suggestion. If, for instance, I have a company and I did well in the capital market and I decide to, let me give Priye, John and Moyo something, you know, but, you know, there's this thing about, well, allegedly about rich people, they like to keep wealth circulated within
Themselves.
a small circle. It's a good thing.
Who said that?
As I said,
To
allegedly.
who?
It's a good thing.
Okay.
It's a good thing if companies can do that. I've worked for a particular company. Whenever they make sales, you know, they give bonuses, commission. Every
Cash-wise.
cash-wise.
Not share-wise.
Not share-wise.
shares.
I do think it's a brilliant idea. I mean, the pension fund is directly
can be
linked to the stock
converted.
exchange, so why not?
If it can be
Yeah.
converted to cash as bonuses, commissions, and all that. But, you know, these things go around the board meeting. The board will have to sit and to convince a whole board that, look, let's give our workers. Some investors might buy it, some investors will not buy
There's
it.
some international companies that will give you stock options as
Yes,
well.
not just
Why not?
international companies. Some companies in Africa,
Even here?
yes, they give you stock options. For you to become a partner in a firm, that means you get some shares. So,
But Mr. Chooks, the question you threw out that when you talked about the more major participants, pharmaceuticals, and how a few of them left the country, what seemed to fill the void that made us not to really feel the impact that we were really expecting, maybe like a massive crash in the market, but instead it regained. Looking at that particular story and bringing some form of analysis from the telecommunications sector, the Nigerian telecommunications sector, according to analysis, is worth about $10 billion. We are not there yet. And I just imagine $10 billion. That's the potential that it holds. However, why some of it is contributing to the stock market and they had filled that void that you spoke about that was left by the pharmaceuticals. How did they fill it? Do you remember that the current administration is engaged in some of the telecommunications projects, and one of it, when it comes to reforms in the telecom sector and information technology, is the 3 million talent transfer program. It's a tech program where the Tinubu administration wants to make sure that they train 3 million youths to take up the space of tech. And in training up these 3 million youth, currently as we speak, they have done 117,000 of those 3 million youths. So before the end of the first administration, they are proposing to have done 1.5 million, which means that they would have done like 50 million. And that is not just 50% rather. That is not just it's not just a program or a reform that it's on paper, because it's currently going as we speak, and it signifies a massive investment in the telecommunications sector and that specific industry. So the tendency that you are going to be seeing about huge startups in this specific sector, you know, who are already quoted in the market, in the market will be receiving some form of boost because their shares will be selling. Because if you look at Nasdaq 500, Tell me who's bailing the cat? Startups and IT companies. I think we are heading towards that place where we see telecoms begin to, fill in the void. And to put it in proper perspective, if we just have less than 150 companies that are quoted in Nigerian stock market in the exchange at the moment now, there's the tendency that probably before this administration is done, would have gone past that figure. I mean, we have 300 in South Africa, and if you look at the market capitalization, it's running into $1.3 trillion. Tell me, it's something that we can do because we're just merely doing about $400 billion.
Okay, while we wait and look at the market and every other stock jumping, that is my prayer. We also want to start seeing names of not just, I won't call them traditional medicine manufacturers on the stock exchange. I look forward to.
Should.
I look forward to seeing that.
We should. I remember vividly, but by the time you bring Doc to speak, he's always angry. Dr. Abalaka said, "I can defeat AIDS, Nigeria."
Okay, why you decide to defeat?
No. What was he referring to? He was referring to traditional medicine.
Yes.
He was referring to that. So we had the national, is it NAFDAC that's responsible for that? Do we have labs? Can we test it? Yeah. Can we?
Yes, we can.
The veracity of this claim.
Yes,
can we do
can.
that on the mouse?
Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Do you take soup here in Nigeria?
Soup?
Yes. Almost 99.9% of Nigerians eat soup.
Of course.
Different kind of soup.
Bitter leaf soup.
You are all taking traditional medicine.
We're all taking traditional.
Okay.
I don't think it's that simple. But okay.
Let's keep going. Now to our other story of the day. This is another good positive one. Crude price jumped nearly 2% on Wednesday after reports emerged that United States intelligence suggested Israel was preparing a strike on Iranian nuclear sites. The news has intensified fears of a broader conflict in the Middle East, adding a risk to premium oil market. West Texas Intermediate rose to 63.22 United States dollars per barrel, while Brent crude climbed to 66.56 United States dollars. Now, let's get to this. Now, for everyone who happens to be Nigerian, our budget was based on this benchmark, $75 per barrel.
Yeah.
Then we have this last month, and oil price dipped well below 60. Now gradually it's climbing up. Trump has gone to Saudi, Trump is back. Behind closed door discussions, we don't know, but something is happening. And Nigeria should be happy. How do we position ourselves? How do we position ourselves to take full advantage of what is happening right now?
We're a bit in a dilemma, Mr. Chooks. A dilemma in what sense? If crude oil price in the international market continues to soar, it brings more money to Nigeria. More money to which Nigeria? More money to the government of the country. Because our budget is, the calculation of our budget is premised on $75 per barrel.
Yes.
And we want to attain that.
Definitely.
And if we are going to attain that, the president is looking at attaining also 2.01 or 6 barrels per day, million barrels per day of production.
Right now, we are not there yet.
And right now, we are about 1.5, barely 1.5, just barely 1.5 million barrels per day. So that's going to be lots of money. But the thing is, as the government is making lots of money, the Nigerian will be paying, the average Nigerian will be paying more for it. Because
for refined products.
For refined crude that are imported into the country. Now, the other part that I want to talk
Can we also look at this from this part?
Okay.
Nigeria is meant for Nigerians. Nigerian oil should be for Nigerians. Now, if we decide that, okay, we sell to our refineries differently, nobody can come and put a gun on us and say no.
Okay, but
I don't know if you understand.
I understand.
Now, if we tell our refineries or those within that can also refine, okay, go to this particular fields and explore. We can't assist in this part, which you will pay for, but explore at a cut price.
Okay,
I don't know. That is making provision for Nigerians.
Great. But
now, if we depend on importation, then that is where we are also looking at losing the last.
But Chooks, there's this thing I've been trying to be restless to call your attention to.
Okay.
And this is it. We cannot completely depend in importing crude oil because it's devastating to our economy.
Importing.
Importing.
Good.
And
When is it going to stop?
And we cannot completely rule out importation.
Okay.
Now,
okay,
we cannot completely
hold
rule
on to
out
that thought.
importation because you want me to hold on?
Hold on to that thought. Let me come to you. If we say that going forward, we wake up one day and there is this particular conflict, it seems like conflict is like a favor, and a platter handed down to us right now. Ghana just got their first crude consignment from Angola, which is good.
Yeah.
Now, this intra-African trade is going to continue.
Yes.
And it's going to be positive for us.
Yes.
Now, apart from intra-African trade, what about intra-country trade? Where I was going to, is it possible when we say, okay, good and fine, for more refineries to come up, let's look for how the government within African states can subsidize the crude for those particular refineries to produce for people within the country. First, that's coming to you, Olumide.
Yeah.
So how can we get that done? How can nations get that done? And also be able to service their obligations of sending crude outside?
Well, it's not rocket science, like I said. But first of all, the political power, the willpower rather, is it there? Just like you said, we can decide to subsidize it for our own people and say, okay, the remaining, send it out. We have so many, fine, we have illegal refineries, blah, 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 blah. And Doc was actually saying the other time when we had this discussion that we do not have the technology to actually drill and refine this crude to the maximum quality that we are expecting. So why can't the government set up a partnership between the private sector and the government? Let's get this equipment in. Let's hire people. Definitely to create employment for people. Let's get this technology into this country rather than exporting our crude out and bringing a refined product into Nigeria. Or better still, give some of these companies, give them licenses to go and do explorations.
And the end use, you now share.
Then share.
Okay.
Or better still, maybe, I know some states are doing it, maybe states should even take charge.
Okay, let me come to you, Moyo.
Yeah.
When Dangote refinery came up, government had a percentage share earlier on that had to be cut down.
20%.
It had to be cut down because of payment issues.
Drastically to 7%.
Take it easy with us. Now, at the point when that was cut down, this is just me thinking. Yeah. Do you see a possibility where if government goes into this kind of partnership, government can just say, okay, good and fine, we are giving you crude, refine on our behalf. Refine and give us a product. And however I want to share profit, we'll share. When it has to do with the people, is this something that is possible? Is it doable, or do you see?
It is possible. It is doable. I mean, he mentioned the willpower, and we just need people who are willing and who are ready to strengthen our local value chain when it comes to the oil and gas industry. I don't think, again, we keep putting the cart before the horse.
When you say the willpower, this when it comes to this particular sector,
yes,
this administration has the willpower. Ask me why.
Why did you say so?
If you remember, I keep making this reference. There was an issue between Mobil and Seplat. It went to court, it went to court, it went to court. There was a whole lot of issue. The day government put their foot down, it took days. And if you know that road that leads to that road, what you see there now is Seplat, no longer Mobil. So if they can do that, I still strongly believe.
Again, I mean, we all live in Nigeria, and I don't want to say, this could have been some personal interest-based. I don't know.
If personal interest can favor the entire country,
but I'm going I'm going to need to see more consistency before I can respect the reference that you just made.
Okay.
That being said, I do think that, of course, it is possible. We just need to have the willpower, as I initially said, to do that. And again, we keep putting the cart before the horse. I don't think Nigeria can fully ever benefit from, things like this if we don't get the basics right. If we don't get the basics right, it's not going to, there's no way we want to do it. It's not going to work. I mean, even if it's not going to work, we cannot maximize what we are supposed to get from this if we don't do it right. We still always have issues of again, we always demonize subsidy. I don't know why we demonize subsidy so much in this part of the world. It is not generally a bad thing. If we do, as he mentioned earlier, if we do stuff like that and then we make the prices cheaper for the local refiners here and stuff like that, next thing we hear somebody stole subsidy money. Next thing we hear some people who don't have refineries are applying for subsidy and somebody is paying it to them. So until we clean it up properly, I mean, all this talk is just talk on paper.
Okay.
Until we clean
While it's talk on paper, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
I'm coming to you. 2001, to correct me if I'm right, when telecommunication rolled out open networks and everybody could go buy a SIM and phone. 2001, 2002, right? After Obasanjo just came in.
Yes.
Now, if we remember, the first guys that came were selling SIM card at
24,000, 25,000.
24,000, and you had to go queue. You travel to Abuja and go and queue, if you remember very well. Then phones were the rich,
but the rich,
the rich preserved.
I think there was a senator who said it wasn't for poor people.
Yes, to God be the glory, he's retired now.
He's retired from the senator from life, which one? I'm not sure.
Now, if you remember, then the second one came. Then Glo came.
Yes.
Then it would no longer have per minute billing. It was now called as you pay as you go.
Yes.
Do we see a situation where Dangote is the only major refinery that is private going on now? Bill is building, and by God's grace, they will complete. There are several other ones that are also not just in the pipeline, they are currently building. Do we see a situation where once these guys come up, they will have a competition and things will go down?
Okay. First of all, that was where I was heading when you asked the first question.
You should have finished your traffic lights.
When I was saying that, look, there's a way we will not import. And when I say import, I'm not talking about the government importing. I'm talking about private investors in the sector importing. Why? Because the government has made crude, let's say we are doing 1.5 million or we are doing 2.06 million barrels per day. And the government has a quota that should be deployed to local refineries, including Dangote and other modular refineries in the country to supply them. Dangote is 650,000 barrel crude capacity. So if we can do more than the 300 or 350,000 and we take into about 450,000 barrels for him for crude, then it will be fine. And all other modular refineries, if they can have that share from that 2.06 million barrels per day. But the thing is, Nigeria is also responsible.
Sorry to cut you. Sorry to cut you. He said something, and that was the refineries being able to explore on their own.
Being able to explore.
And not depending on what government is bringing up.
You mean to drill?
Yes.
Because currently now, as we speak, in the Bauchi axis,
thank you,
there is drilling going on currently there.
Government just said go there and drill.
The previous administration, and the current administration has given a directive for continuation of that project.
Okay.
Now, private individuals, do we have that capacity to drill? However, if we
yes, they do.
Not Nigeria. We're talking about local
companies.
Yes, we're talking about local. They
can
only access that through some form of consortium involving the commercial banks that will be able to foot the billions and hundreds of billions and thousands of dollars that will be sunk under the ground for them to realize profit, and which is equally based on the exchange rate of the dollar. Now, because private individuals are going to suffer extensively when they do that. However, they should be able to have collaborations with private organizations, with private banks outside the country that have the required financial chest to be able to suck that in. However, let me lie.
Permit me to add a spanner to these works of yours. Okay. It's only in Nigeria that the cost of production of one barrel is so high.
That's why you need to let me land.
Okay, land.
That's where I'm
heading. Let him land.
So the thing is, when the government has given its own quota to Dangote and to other modular refineries, it will be in the naira and not in dollar, and that brings its own respite and takes down the pressure of the naira compared to the dollar. So in that specific case, and look, experts said about 30% pressure of the dollar on the naira will be taken off by virtue of the naira for crude exchange that will take place between Dangote and other locally owned modular refineries in the country. Now, why is the government obligated to send in crude abroad? It will be with what? It will be in dollars, because we are selling to foreigners, and it will be in dollars. What does it do? It has its own humongous advantage on the naira. It makes the naira appreciate and almost, try to, and the dollar will begin to decline in that specific sense. And you know that much of our earnings in Nigeria, from our GDP, 80% of it comes from the exchange of crude to the dollars. So why should we not embark on that? Now, that does not specifically say that the government is going to meet all the obligations and the quotas that it has allocated to the local refineries, because why it needs to also feed the external part of it so we can have a good exchange in the dollar. And if we do that, local refineries that do not have sufficient product, are they going to source their material? They are going to go abroad. But the thing is, when you are going abroad, don't go outside the continent of Africa. Go to Algeria, go to Angola, go to Sudan.
Why should
because
they go,
these are markets
why should they go there?
for us to facilitate intra-African trade, just the way Ghana has done.
Can I throw one more spanner in this works? Now, there are several oil fields in Nigeria that are right now not drilling. As we speak right now, there are several oil fields.
Why are the private individuals not going in there?
Hold on. That is where we are talking about. That's good.
It requires lots of money to do that.
We will say where this particular service needs to be gotten for those drilling to continue and start and not stop. We need to explore them. That way, we will produce more. We have not even met our quota yet. And we still have obligations to meet outside, just like you said. We still have a budget to fund. So if we can get these oil fields drilling, then that's good for us. If we need to get, the good news sometime last week also was that several of the internationals that left are also looking forward to come back. That's some good news, but we want to see it happen in the first place. We'll be going on a very short break before we hit the next story. So, hey, this is SOUQ Business Landscape. There's no better place to be than this place. Remember, follow us on all our social media handles. Just go to SOUQ News TV on all social media platforms and follow us. Then also, hey, tell your friend to tell his friend. Even your neighbor, make sure you're not fighting with anybody. But should you, just send this handle to the person and you guys will have a very good respite. Don't go anywhere. SBL will be right back. Welcome back. It's SBL and my name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. Now we go to our last story that we will peep into for today. We are hitting it live with Donald Trump. President Donald Trump has unveiled a 175 billion, I think I need to take that again, 175 billion missile defense initiative called the Golden Dome, setting a 3-year deadline for completion. Now, this particular system, 175 billion, that money keeps ringing in my head, 175 billion, modeled after Israel Iron Dome aims to shield the United States from long-range threats and will be led by General Michael Gillen of the United States Special Force. Trump said 25 billion will be sourced from a spending and tax reform bill. Major defense contractors and tech firms, including Elon Musk, SpaceX, same person, are already pinching to build the ambitious project. Now, this is where I am going to stop. For people that are really looking at this particular development, it's been a long time coming. We knew they were going to go there, but how much they were going to spend, it's something that is shocking to all. Now, this particular 175 billion is just a start because it's projected that by 2029, that's in less than a decade, that spending is going to go above $1 trillion. Permit me to drop this pen. Please, how much is the entire African budget for 2025? The entire African country put together?
If I'm not correct, over 1 trillion dollars.
Okay, that's entire Africa.
Yeah.
Budget for okay, sorry.
For 2025.
Numbers are failing us right now. So for those that are wondering why we have to go this route, it's just a difference about 108 billion between the entire African continent and a defense budget. I'm talking about defense budget for a single country. People will say, why are they going this route? Dominance, economic dominance is a direct indices of military dominance.
Yes.
When should Nigeria start playing in this particular place?
Okay, I think I may sound a little bit harsh if I'm to go that direct and directly answering that question. Why shouldn't Nigeria be playing or swimming in that? I don't want to call it murky waters, but it's actually
But
murky
it's not
waters.
murky waters.
Okay.
I think you should ask me why I said it's not murky waters.
Okay, no, you do the asking. So just let me.
No, it's an open, right now it's an open,
Yes.
it's an open buffet.
So the thing is this. First of all, those who are their ears on ground, they already know where the stock market will be heading in the United States of America. They could deduce that from the political manifestos of the Republican Party. And what I mean by the Republican Party, I'm talking about the disposition and the statements that were coming from the President Donald Trump, as at that time when he wasn't president. So they were looking at his body language, what he was saying, and all of that. They already knew that, you know what, when and finally, and if he gets into office, there are some areas in the market that the stock will be soaring. And one of them, it is defense budget. The defense budget and industries or companies that are involved in manufacturing defense equipment in the United States, their stock will run up high. And I have some of their numbers here. You have RTS Core, it's high by 5.9%. You have Lockheed Martin Core, 20.3%. Northrop Grumman Core. I mean, I have just about seven of there. The last is Curtis Wright Core with 15.6% high. Why is that? We stated recently that Donald Trump went to Saudi Arabia.
Came back.
And came back.
Struck some
and he's
closed
telling-
door businesses.
And he's saying, and we just heard in the news that Israel is going to hit hard on Iran. That alone, do you know the implication of that statement? It means that the Iranian stock would deepen. It will plummet drastically because stability, political stability, is one of the key indices in reading, the stock.
Market stability is directly influenced
It's
by
directly
political
influenced
stability.
by that. So you know what? People will start selling. And guess where they are going to hide their money? It's in gold. They are going to hide their money in gold. So in that specific case, Donald Trump is not telling you we're embarking on 175. You know, you forgot to mention, you said billion, but you didn't say in dollars. Of course, when you mention Donald Trump, people should know that, of course, you're referring to dollars. $175 billion.
It's just defense spending.
Defense spending. I know what this shares from this defense military equipment who are manufacturing that are quoted in the stock, they are going to go up more than what we are seeing currently now. Why is Nigeria not threatening there? We do not. How many of our defense companies are quoted in our stock exchange?
The question should be, where are the defense companies?
Okay, fine.
That's a good
fine,
place
because
to
I don't want to
start.
start mentioning maybe Dicon or if it's still in operation.
Dicon they are still very well in operation.
Very,
but
very,
it's
very
owned
well in operation.
It's
So
owned by the military.
Yes, so I don't want to even start mentioning that. And one of this, when Niger Republic took over the reins of political power through the barrel of the gun, when the heads of state met and given the significant position that our president occupies as the chairman of the West African Bloc and the African Union and all of that, when we look at that, okay, so what should we have done? All military heads of state gathered and they were given okay, our forces are already positioned in place and ready to go into Niger Republic to go and restore civilian government. Do you know what the world was looking at and what Nigerian did not take advantage on? Now, I'm not just saying this. I spoke to a professor who lectures within the jurisdiction of international relations. And he was saying that Nigeria missed a great opportunity to make our continent, to make our country great in one specific sense. But you know what? Some of the states in Africa are going to hate us for it. Because what were the heads of state proposing to Nigeria? we're going there, this is the X amount of money we're going to have instead of military expenditure. And you know what? Nigeria should bail the cat by taking over 70% stake.
And do what? And go into Niger?
Go into Niger. That
And
means
do,
we're going to provide,
and do what exactly in Niger?
restore democratic government.
Okay, hold on to that thought. Hold on to that particular thought. Now, let me come to you, Moyo. If I progress this, some years back, not too long ago, we had Obasanjo, and before Obasanjo, we had the war in Liberia.
Yeah.
Then we had that in Sudan. We had just within that East African side, and we also had one that almost started in Gambia, and what was it called? One of that very small country.
Yeah.
For those particular ones, all Obasanjo did was a call.
To stop it.
Just a call.
Who is Obasanjo?
The first this political dispensation, the first person, this political dispensation.
Democratic.
Now, also during the Liberian War, Nigerian soldiers, without any sense of pride, were the major people. Nigeria was the major people that stopped that war.
Yeah.
Same thing in Sudan. We played a large role. Even if we get to see and watch movies, and all we get to see is EU, France, the US. But Nigerians' boots were on ground in Sudan, in Darfur. Nigerians were on ground. Are we taking advantage of this? I won't just call it diplomacy. Are we taking advantage of this amount of big brother activities we are putting down on other African nations?
Yeah.
We're not taking advantage of it. Is it what's making others to look at us as weak, or as after all, it's Nigeria?
I think the continuous reality of of Nigeria, the Nigerian state, is what makes us look weak. We talk about the security problems, we talk about the economic problems, the worsening inflation. This is the reality of Nigeria. We can't run away from it. And things like that, when you're like that, it makes diplomacy weak, because people don't really respect you. If we're going to be honest,
is diplomacy weak because of the people, or because of the system, or because
it's a mix of everything, because the people make up the system. So what I'm saying here is most of what Nigeria enjoys, to be fair, is more of what some people would term, sort of like past glory. Back in the day when Nigeria could really stand up to foreign powers and stuff like that. Today, not so much. I mean, in 2016, we could see Buhari at a meeting in the UK, and the Prime Minister was saying that that's one of the presidents of a fantastically corrupt nation. If it was during Obasanjo's military era, they could never try that.
It will respond.
But they could never have said something like that.
On this side of the divide, what response did we give?
On this, when
yes.
we talk
so
about
when those kind of statements are made,
yes,
the Foreign Service, what did they say? We are not seeking the answers. Now I'm coming to you. Let's get to this spending. 175 billion being spent for defense.
Yes.
Defense spending. This is not even the first defense budget. This is just an addition.
yes, it's just an addition.
This is just an addition.
Yeah, the defense budget is almost 900
$923 billion.
That was where he was quoting as it being the total of...
Yeah, this is what we are submitting to you, the Senate. Could you please approve this?
Let's now look at this. Military strength and economic strength. It's based on this that Trump can say, we'll place tariff on this or place tariff on that, and you just respond by, okay, we'll place tariff back, or you don't go beyond that. When should Africa start playing in this league?
Quite a big question, but looking at Burkina Faso, I think they are starting to take the lead in this particular direction. Looking at Niger, what Niger is doing. Mayor Krumale, we were talking about Burkina Faso, the tomato paste factory that they are established in Burkina Faso. Yes, I told Krumale, we both spoke about it, that yes, even though we do not like how the present government in Burkina Faso came in, but it seems as if, not to glorify military coup, I'm not glorifying that, but it seems as if it's taking, or it takes a military coup, or it takes someone to come and usurp power for it to get it right.
Progress, yeah.
Democratically elected government should be the way. But it all boils down to how much we are spending on security and how much we are spending on education, because both go side by side. If we invest a whole lot on education, it would actually bring out a whole lot. But now you're saying, how can Africa, let's look at Nigeria as a case study. We all remember how the former president, Brigade Guard, was attacked at a point in a, how will I put it, in a working nation. That should not happen. And if it happened, the perpetrators should have been brought to book. So for us to ramp up our security system, for us to ramp up everything and say, okay, yes, let's Africa come together, it's going to take a whole lot. We have to put away our differences, xenophobia and the rest of them. We have to put all that aside and say, okay, let's all come together. It can be done. But look at when African Union proposed a single currency, what happened? We could not even get a single currency. How can we now come together and say, yes, let's ramp up our defense system and let's say that no. I mean, I was just reading about Israel's Iron Dome. It is lovely. I don't like war and the rest. But
lovely in violent terms.
In violent terms.
You have a responsibility as a government to protect your people.
Okay. Now, because at the end of the day,
Donald Trump, yes.
Let me round up.
Okay.
Fine, I'm not a part of this Israel and Gaza war, but if you look at Netanyahu and some of the bold statements he's making, it's based on the fact that he loves his people. It's arguably, he's fighting for his people. He wants, I remember someone mentioned, okay, our guest mentioned it that, it was Dr. Daosa. I mentioned that when they were in Dubai, something happened and they wanted to eat. It was during fasting. And the cab driver said that, oh, is there an American? Are you an American? And one of them said yes. And I said, no problem. That if they catch us in less than 15 minutes, the embassy will call. Can we see something like that in Nigeria? We need to be united, basically. Unity is what that can take us there.
Okay, there are certain countries that they don't have a standing military force, but their economy is thriving based on policies, who they trade with, and what they sell. We are now looking at an America who happens to, in quote, be the class monitor of the world. Now they are still spending humongous amount on military budgets. And this was some time past a major problem between them, Russia, and China. Because they kept saying, why are you spending that much on your military? Why are you budgeting that much? Whereas they are also doing way, way more than who they are calling out is doing. In all this, an industry, just like you shared, an industry is being not just
funded.
An industry is being funded.
Heavily.
And not just them on that side, the entire world is paying for it. Because we go to the stock market and subscribe to those particular shares of those particular industry. But we don't get to see it. Now Trump has gone to Saudi and he's back, and I can bet you, even if he's not out there, that some good money is going to go.
The Saudi Arabia stock is going to
go into this particular.
West Texas, you read it. West Texas stock just increased.
Is going to
going up.
Now I'm always very particular as how this news is going to affect we on this side. For those that were privy to this particular proclamation, I can't bet you they have made a whole lot of money in the stock market today, because with each of this proclamation, something is going up, something is coming down. Yes. Are we positioning our market? This is where I'm going to. Are we positioning our market to take advantage of things like this?
Nigeria, okay, do we have a market for it?
Yes, we do.
So when you're talking about how can we be able to stand in that position where we are making this bold statements, now you want to take us to the theories of government, the theories of leaders, or the theories when you start talking about realism and neocolonialism. The United States, is a country that is able to wield both soft power and hard power. And they know the time to wield it. Donald Trump's body language now is both wielding soft and hard power. Just by his visit to Saudi Arabia alone, gives out myriads of statements without him saying a word. Just by his visit alone, Netanyahu said something, and stocks in the Middle East will be plummeting, and stocks in the US are running up. Just by his visit and his body language, and he's telling you we're going to build this. the Pentagon is getting ready. SpaceX, owned by your uncle, Elon Musk. Elon Musk.
Biological.
Not biological, though. But Elon Musk,
Uncle, I
SpaceX.
hope you heard that.
Elon Musk, SpaceX is also bidding for that $175 billion contract.
Is that a conflict of interest? Doesn't he run like the deal?
Oh,
It's
no.
not.
Because SpaceX
It's non-governmental.
It's not governmental.
That is non-governmental. Interesting.
Because he's
Interesting
leaving
turn of
God if
events.
he has not left.
Love it.
So the thing is, he's going to be building...
Department of Government Efficiency is not governmental.
Who's funding it?
So the thing is, his company is going to be, SpaceX is going to be bidding for that contract of $175 billion. There are some other companies in the US that's going to be bidding to build that SpaceX. Of course, the opposition came out and said, look, no way. Our landmass is too massive for that dome to cover all of this. So it's not a sustainable project. Are you going to tell that to Trump?
You can't tell him.
Okay. While you tell that to Trump, or while you tell him not to go the route or follow the road he has proposed, well, we all know that when he says it, I can bet you that he's not just doing it as started it. He's just coming to tell you. We look forward to seeing a very vibrant economy, not just there, but here. And for oil that is rebounding, and for everyone in that particular sector, hey, we'll keep talking about you, we'll keep encouraging you, do well, do better. For everyone also within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something, say something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape. We won't stop discussing, talking, and pushing Africa and Nigeria forward. We are a good people, and we will live better. I want to say thank you very much again to the crew making this a possibility. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. Follow us on all our social media handles. Remember again, at SOUQ TV, at SOUQ News TV, all social media handles. Then you can follow myself, my humble self, at CGUVNOR, that's C Governor, on all social media platforms. Thank you very much. We'll do this again, but before I sign out, this beautiful, handsome gentlemen are still here.
I'm Olumide Sokoya. You can follow me on Media Juggernaut on all social media platforms. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, I am Moyosore Adebiyi. It's lovely to be here always. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Moyo Lagos. Thank you.
And I'm Oyinpreye Krumale. You can follow me on Instagram at Oyinpreye8 and on Twitter, X, on Oyinpreye5. Many thanks for watching.